picture this. It's 9:15 in the morning.
Okay, early start.
Yeah, and you are downtown. You're exactly 45 minutes away from, like, the biggest job interview of your entire life.
Oh, wow. High stakes.
Right. High stakes at this place called the Brightway Company. And, you've planned everything meticulously.
Down to the last detail, I bet.
Exactly. You were wearing this crisp, blindingly white shirt.
Yep.
And your lucky blue tie.
A classic combination.
Totally. And you even decided to take the subway just to, completely avoid any unpredictable city traffic.
Smart move. Traffic can be a killer when you're stressed.
I mean, you're doing everything right. You're engaging in positive self-talk. You're mentally reviewing your resume as you walk.
Get in the zone.
Yep. And then as you turn a corner, this stranger rushing in the exact opposite direction just totally collides with you.
Oh, no. Please don't tell me they had a drink.
They did. They're holding this massive, completely unlidded cup of dark roast coffee.
That is the ultimate nightmare.
It really is. In a fraction of a second, that coffee is just entirely over your chest. I mean, a catastrophic, spreading brown stain on this pristine white background.
It's just brutal.
And you are downtown. Your interview is at Parnary AM sharp, and your absolute perfect presentation is just destroyed.
From a physiological standpoint, your body at that exact moment doesn't actually know the difference between a ruined shirt and, like, a physical predator.
Wait, really? A predator?
Seriously. Your amygdala registers this massive threat. So cortisol and adrenaline just flood your entire system.
Oh, so you're literally going into fight or flight.
Exactly. Your heart rate spikes and all those higher order cognitive functions, things like complex language processing, they actually start to shut down.
Wow. So you couldn't speak perfectly even if you tried.
Right. You are thrust instantly into just pure survival mode.
And that biological reality is exactly where we're starting today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Thrilled to be here for this one.
So today's mission is highly specific. It's designed precisely for you, the listener, especially if you want to master real-world high-stakes English.
Because we are looking at a really unique stack of sources today.
We are. We are completely bypassing that sterile, quiet environment of, textbook learning.
Yeah, textbooks don't teach you what to say when you have a giant coffee stain on your chest.
Exactly. Because language doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens when you spill coffee on your shirt. It happens when you are, totally stressed out about money.
Or when you're just desperately trying to explain a complex timeline to your boss and your mind goes blank.
Right. So textbooks offer us language in this perfectly controlled theoretical state, which is fine, I guess.
It's fine for passing a written test, sure.
But applied linguistics, like the actual mechanics of how we use words to navigate a crisis or, negotiate our survival in the modern world, it's deeply tied to human psychology.
It really is. When you finally understand the underlying mechanism of a phrase, it stops being this boring rule you have to memorize.
It becomes a tool you can actually deploy.
Exactly. It becomes a resource.
And that is the whole goal for this deep dive. We are stripping away all the academic jargon. Zero buzzwords today.
Love it. Just keeping it practical.
Yep. Our focus is entirely on clear explanations, the underlying logic of why English works the way it does, and just practical phrases you can use the minute you take your headphones off today.
So we're going to deconstruct how to communicate in a literal disaster, right?
Yes. And then we're going to explore this amazing visual trick for mastering the absolute hardest verbs in English.
Without a single grammatical term.
Not a single one.
Yeah.
And finally, we'll decode the psychological vocabulary that native speakers use to manage their money and survive the modern economy.
The through line connecting all these sources today is basically resource management.
Resource management, how so?
Well, in a crisis, your resource is time and clarity. In grammar, your resource is the listener's attention. And in personal finance, it's literal currency.
That makes total sense. How we verbally manage those resources really dictates our success.
Exactly.
So let's unpack that first resource clarity in a crisis. That scenario I described earlier, the coffee incident, that's actually our first source material.
Oh, this is the case study about Mark.
Yes, a documented real-life case study of this guy named Mark. So after the collision at 9:15 a.m., Mark is just standing on the sidewalk in a total state of shock.
Right, because his brain is flooded with cortisol.
Exactly. He doesn't have time to go all the way home, so he immediately calls his wife, Lisa.
And if we look really closely at the transcript of their conversation, it reveals this fascinating behavioral adaptation.
It really does. It shows how native speakers instinctively communicate under extreme duress.
What stands out to me right away is just the complete absence of complex syntax.
Yeah, the sentences are totally fractured. They're abbreviated.
Hyper-focus.
Which is funny, because I see this constantly with English learners. When a learner gets nervous, say they're at the immigration counter or taking an oral exam.
Or sitting in a high-pressure interview.
Right. They instinctively try to construct these incredibly long, elaborate sentences just to prove how good their English is.
They try to string together multiple clauses, use advanced vocabulary.
And inevitably, they just get tangled up and freeze.
Because their working memory is compromised by the stress.
Exactly. But looking at Mark and Lisa, native speakers do the exact opposite.
They strip the language down to its absolute studs.
From a cognitive perspective, your brain just cannot allocate bandwidth to decorative language right now.
The sole objective is just the rapid transfer of actionable data.
Right, so Mark says to his wife, "My shirt is ruined." He doesn't say, a pedestrian collided with me and spilled their hot beverage.
Right, he doesn't explain the trajectory of the pedestrian or the temperature of the coffee. It's just, my shirt is ruined.
And Lisa responds with this immediate emotional stabilization. She just says, "Don't panic."
Which is so crucial.
It is. I want to look at that phrase, "don't panic." It's only 2 words, but it acts like this psychological reset button.
It acknowledges the severity of this situation, but it essentially instructs the brain to halt that downward spiral.
Yeah, and then they instantly transition into what sounds almost like, I don't know, air traffic control communication.
That's a really apt comparison, because in aviation, communication protocols are completely designed to eliminate ambiguity.
Right, no room for misunderstandings.
Exactly. So Lisa realizes she happens to be near a shopping center called City Mall. She says, "I'm near City Mall. You can get there fast. 5 minutes. What's your size?"
Notice that staccato delivery, just boom, boom, boom.
And Mark's response is equally surgical. He just says, "medium white."
Right, he doesn't say, "Well, I would prefer a slim fit if they have it, perhaps something in an Oxford cloth."
No time for that. He provides the minimum viable data required to solve the problem. Noun and adjective. Medium white, please hurry.
This is such a critical takeaway for anyone operating in a second language.
Fluency in a crisis isn't about using big words.
Exactly. It's about radical efficiency. If you are lost, if you need medical help, if you're late for a presentation, just revert to noun, verb, essential adjective.
The goal is pure utility.
So Lisa sprints into the department store, and her interaction with the retail clerk is this absolute masterclass in establishing stakes.
She doesn't mess around.
Not at all. She doesn't wait in line and start with all those pleasantries. She just walks right up and says, "It's an emergency. My husband needs a shirt for an interview."
She establishes the context immediately, which basically forces the clerk to match her urgency.
Yeah, she totally bypasses that standard retail script of, "Hi, how are you today? Did you find everything all right?"
By declaring an emergency, she cuts through all that friction.
And then she gives the clerk the parameters. She says, "Good quality." And then she uses this phrase that honestly saves Mark's career. She says, "No ironing needed."
The foresight there is just remarkable.
Right, because she's already anticipating the next physical obstacle.
Exactly. If she buys a standard dress shirt, it comes out of the packaging covered in those hard, square creases.
Mark would walk into the interview looking like he literally slipped in a cardboard box.
Which communicates chaos to an interviewer, but a wrinkle-free or non-ironed shirt communicates readiness.
So she grabs a $25 shirt, runs to the register, and delivers another rapid-fire imperative. She says, "Remove the tags, please."
Again, anticipating the obstacle.
Mark is going to be changing in a public restroom in about 3 minutes. He doesn't have scissors.
Right, he can't be standing there tearing at thick plastic tags with his teeth.
No. Every command Lisa issues is perfectly designed to shave seconds off the timeline. It is just highly functional English.
So where is Mark during this?
Meanwhile, Mark arrives at the Brightway Company office building. It's 9:45 a.m.
My clock is ticking.
He approaches the receptionist. And I love this. He doesn't try to hide the stain or pretend it didn't happen.
Which never works anyway.
Right. He points right to it and says, "I have a problem. Someone spilled coffee on me."
Just owning it.
So the receptionist directs him to the lobby restroom. He's in there trying to manage the damage. The source notes he tries to dab it with cold water.
Ah, dab. That's a very specific verb.
It is. Why is that significant?
Well, dabbing is a gentle pressing motion, as opposed to rubbing, which creates friction and just pushes the stain deeper into the fibers.
Oh, wow. So it shows he's not totally panicking.
Right, it shows Mark is still trying to apply logical solutions rather than just thrashing around in despair.
But, I mean, the stain is completely insurmountable. It's 9:55 a.m.
5 minutes until showtime.
5 minutes until he's supposed to be sitting in the interview chair. And then the doors to the lobby slide open, and Lisa just runs in.
The MVP.
Truly. And because Mark had proactively warned the security desk about his wife arriving, they actually let her bypass the sign-in protocol.
More friction eliminated.
She hands him the shirt, and Mark says to her, "You're a lifesaver."
You're a lifesaver. That is one of those highly resilient English idioms.
It's so common. Where does that actually come from?
It evolved from maritime rescue, literally throwing a buoyant ring, a lifesaver, to a drowning person.
Oh, right.
But we use it now for just any act of profound intervention. It conveys a depth of gratitude that a simple thank you just cannot reach.
So Mark sprints into the restroom, tears off the ruined shirt, puts on the new wrinkle-free white shirt, ties his lucky blue tie, and steps out.
Just in the nick of time.
Exactly. He walks into the interview room at precisely 10:00 a.m., looking immaculate.
You'd never know what just happened.
Right. The interviewer looks up, shakes his hand, and opens with just a standard, polite icebreaker. Did you find us easily?
No, this is the pivot point of the entire scenario.
It really is.
This is exactly where the language moves from survival to strategy.
Because Mark could very easily just say, "Yes, thank you, the subway was fine."
He could completely hide the chaotic morning.
But he makes this deliberate choice to expose the crisis. He smiles and says, "Yes, but I had a small adventure."
Framing a disaster as a small adventure is just a brilliant psychological maneuver.
Why does that work so well?
Because the word adventure implies a challenge that was met and overcome, it suggests a narrative arc where the protagonist, which is Mark, is ultimately victorious.
Ah, I love that. So he briefly explains the collision, the ruined shirt, and how his wife executed this rapid response supply run to the mall.
And the interviewer's reaction is what's really fascinating here.
The interviewer doesn't view this as unprofessional at all. Instead, he says, "You look very calm now. I like people who solve problems."
Because the interviewer is basically conducting a meta-assessment.
A meta-assessment.
Yeah. During a job interview, employers aren't just listening to the factual content of your answers. They are trying to determine how you will behave when, say, a client project collapses at 4:00 p.m. on a Friday.
Right. They want to see your stress response.
Exactly. Mark didn't just claim to be a good problem solver on his paper resume. You provided real-time, undeniable evidence of his crisis management skills.
He demonstrated emotional regulation, the ability to mobilize resources, and just a total focus on the objective.
And Mark seals the deal by stating his personal thesis right there. He says, "I stay calm in emergencies, and I never give up. Ever."
He connected the physical event to a core character trait.
This is a profound insight for anyone learning a language, or honestly anyone just navigating professional life.
Because mistakes are going to happen, right?
Inevitably. The initial mistake, the accident, the drop ball, these things are unavoidable. You will stumble over a sentence, you'll use the wrong verb, you'll spill coffee.
The competence isn't in avoiding the error.
No, the competence is entirely in the recovery.
The recovery is what people actually remember.
Think about it. If you are speaking English and you completely lose your train of thought and you panic, look down, and start apologizing profusely.
The listener feels all that anxiety. It's uncomfortable.
But if you just laugh, pause, and say, "Let me rephrase that, I got a little tangled up," the listener thinks, wow, this person is confident and adaptable.
The disaster becomes a demonstration of resilience.
Which is an excellent framework for how we process past events in general.
Right, because Mark had to take a chaotic past event, the collision, and somehow contextualize it in the present moment for his interviewer.
He had to build a bridge between the past and the present.
Which requires a very, very specific linguistic mechanism in English. And that brings us seamlessly into our second source material today.
The architecture of time.
Yes, because if we look at the timeline of Mark's morning, we're dealing with distinct temporal zones.
Right. His wife went to the store in the past.
But the result of her action, that clean shirt, was actively solving a problem in the present, so the coffee stain was gone.
Navigating those distinct time zones, past, present, and the bridge between them, is arguably the single greatest source of friction for English learners.
It totally is. And the source material we have for this is revolutionary, I think, because it completely eliminates the academic bureaucracy of grammar.
Which is such a relief.
It argues that learners don't actually struggle with English itself. They struggle with how English forces them to visualize time.
So we are throwing out scary terms like present perfect continuous.
Gone. We are throwing them in the trash. Instead, we are looking at a purely visual, spatial mapping of time.
Spatial mapping is honestly how the human brain naturally processes abstract concepts anyway. If we can map time onto physical space, the rules become intuitive. They stop feeling arbitrary.
Okay, so I want you to imagine a long, straight road stretching out in front of you and stretching out behind you. This is the timeline of reality.
Visualizing a road. Got it.
On this road, we are only going to focus on 3 specific locations. 3 anchor points.
Okay, what are they?
There is now, which is exactly where you are standing. There is finished past, which is way behind you. And there's a bridge that connects those 2 points.
And we're going to master 3 specific words for these locations: go, went, and gone.
Yes. Let's anchor ourselves at the first location, the present moment, now.
The word here is due.
And the visual analogy provided by the source for go is just a spinning circle.
I think the spinning circle is the perfect representation because it implies this kinetic energy that just loops.
Right, it's not just a single isolated point. It's a routine. It's a habit. It's a recurring reality.
Every morning at 7 a.m., the alarm rings and I go to work.
It's the architecture of your daily life.
Yeah.
On Fridays, we go out for dinner. On Sundays, I go to the gym. The circle just keeps spinning week after week.
It also applies to general facts that are just always true.
Like water flows, the earth spins, I go to the store when I need milk.
But this is where learners frequently break the mechanism.
How so?
They try to take that spinning circle and force it into the past. They'll say something like, I go to the doctor yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I hear that a lot.
Which creates a temporal paradox for a native speaker's brain. You are taking a word designed for continuous present loops, go, and attaching a definitive ending marker like yesterday.
The brain just rejects it. It sounds clunky.
Exactly.
And there is another mechanical quirk to this spinning circle that we really have to address.
The dreaded S.
The S. So when we talk about I, you, we, or they, the circle spins perfectly with just the word go. I go, you go.
But what happens when we talk about a third party? He, she, or it.
The spelling changes too. Goes, he goes.
A lot of learners find this incredibly frustrating. Like, why add the S? It just seems like an arbitrary complication to memorize.
But the source frames it so well. If we view it structurally, that S acts as a linguistic pointer.
A pointer.
Yeah. Think about it. When I say I am referring to myself. When I say you, I am referring to you, the person I'm directly talking to.
We are the immediate participants in the conversation.
Right. But when I bring up he or she, I am suddenly introducing an outsider. An absent third party.
So the S sound in goes, or eats, or sleeps, it acts as a flag.
Yes, it's like an auditory arrow pointing away from our immediate conversation towards someone else. It's a tracking mechanism.
It basically signals to the listener, hey, heads up, we're no longer talking about us. The subject has shifted to that person over there. He goes.
Doesn't that make so much more sense than just memorizing a conjugation table? It's literally a tracking beacon.
It's brilliant. Now, what about the most common structural crash I hear from learners? The classic, I am go.
Oh yes, I'm go to the store.
This usually stems from a learner trying to translate the continuous present from their native language directly into English word for word.
But in English, the word am denotes a state of existence. It's a static reality.
Well, go denotes an active movement.
So when you say I am go, you are trying to operate 2 completely different mechanical systems at the exact same time.
The source compares it to putting 2 steering wheels in one car.
And trying to turn them in opposite directions. The sentence just rips itself apart.
You either have to steer with the static reality, I am happy, or you steer with the action, I go to the store.
Right. And if you want to describe an action happening right this exact second, you have to modify the verb into a continuous state. You add the in, I am going.
But you can never, ever say, I am go.
Keep your hands on one steering wheel. Choose your mechanism.
All right, so we leave the spinning circle of the present, and we turn around to look back down the road at our second location.
The finished past. And the word here is went.
The visual anchor for this location is incredibly decisive.
I love this imagery. Imagine a heavy, solid oak door. You walk through it, you pull it shut behind you, and you hear this massive iron lock click into place.
Boom. Closed.
The action is entirely, completely definitively over. It has absolutely no physical bleed into the present moment. Once that door is closed, you must use went.
And how do we know the door's actually closed? We look for the linguistic keys that lock it.
Words like yesterday, last week, in 2015, or 2 hours ago.
These time markers are absolute boundaries. They seal the event in the past.
If I say I went to Tokyo in 2018, the door is locked in 2018. The action is over. She went to the meeting yesterday morning. Heavy door, locked.
But this introduces a major complication when we try to ask questions about the locked door.
Right. Formulating questions is tricky. The common error is, did you went to the meeting?
Which is incredibly pervasive. You hear did you went or did she saw constantly.
The source explains this beautifully by looking at the word did. It calls did a bureaucratic timestamp.
I love that, a timestamp.
Its only job in the entire sentence is to stamp the paper with the word past. Once the sentence has been stamped, the paperwork is filed.
So when you say did you went, you are taking a sentence that has already been timestamped as past by the word did.
And you are stamping it a second time with the word went.
It's totally redundant. The grammar bureaucracy rejects double stamping.
It's like putting two identical license plates on the back of the same car. You only need one.
Since did already proves the action happened in the past, the verb that follows it can just relax. It goes back to its completely normal base form.
The heavy lifting is already done by did.
So you must ask, did you go? The timestamp did secures the past tense, so go remains clean and untouched.
Did she see it? Not did she saw it. Just remember the bureaucracy of grammar. No double timestamps allowed.
This approach the heavy door, the timestamp is just far superior to rote memorization.
Because it gives you a logical framework to self-correct in real time, right?
Exactly. If you hear yourself double stamping, your brain will automatically flag it. Wait, I already used did.
Now, we arrive at the most complex location on our timeline. The third word. We have the spinning circle for go, the heavy door for went, and now we have the bridge.
The word is gone.
Gone is the source of immense anxiety for learners because it operates on a totally different frequency than the others.
It is what linguists might call a participle, but our source calls it something much more intuitive, a VIP.
A very important person. And a VIP, by definition, never travels alone.
Go and went are like independent laborers. They can walk into a sentence and do the job completely unsupervised. I go, I went.
But Gandhi doesn't have that structural independence. It requires an escort.
It needs a bodyguard to carry it into the sentence.
And those bodyguards are the helper verbs. Have, has, and had. You cannot use gone without one of them standing right next to it.
You can never just say, I gone to the store.
No. That is a VIP walking down a dangerous street alone. The sentence just collapses. It must be I have gone, she has gone, or they had gone.
So that solves the structural requirement. But the true conceptual breakthrough in this source is how it defines the meaning of gone.
Right. Why does this bridge even exist between the past and the present?
This is my favorite part of the entire deep dive, the empty chair concept.
It is a profoundly elegant way to explain consequence. Let's build the scenario for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
You knock on my front door. You are looking for my roommate, Alex. I open the door and you say, hey, is Alex here? I reply, no, he has gone to the grocery store.
Now, let's analyze the reality of that statement. The action of Alex leaving the house happened in the past.
Right. It might have been 10 minutes ago or 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
But why am I telling you this right now?
You are telling me because the result of his past action is happening right this very second.
The result is that his chair in my living room is empty.
Gone represents a lingering absence. The person departed in the past, and their departure is still true in the present moment. They have not returned.
It is entirely about the present consequence. If I say, my passport has gone missing, I am not just giving you a history lesson about yesterday when it fell out of my pocket.
No, you're explaining a current crisis.
Right. I am urgently explaining my present reality. I am standing at the airport counter, my hands are empty, and I cannot board this plane. The past action created a present crisis.
If we contrast this directly with went, the difference becomes really stark.
Let's do that.
If I say, Alex went to the store yesterday, I'm just handing you a closed file folder.
The heavy door is shut.
Exactly. It has no bearing on today. But if I say Alex has gone to the store, I am actively explaining why the house is quiet right now.
The action is past, but the result is present. However, this creates a massive collision course with another very similar word.
The ultimate rival to gone.
And that word is been.
Been also uses the have bodyguards. I have gone versus I have been.
The mechanical structure is identical, which is why learners conflate them constantly.
But structurally identical does not mean conceptually identical.
Let's look at two sentences. Sentence A, my manager has gone to Paris. Sentence B, my manager has been to Paris.
Let's apply the empty chair diagnostic to sentence A. If your manager has gone to Paris, where is she right now?
Her chair in the office is empty. She got on a plane, she left, and she has not come back yet. If you want to talk to her, you have to call a French time zone.
Gone is a one-way ticket.
Exactly. But sentence B, my manager has been to Paris.
If she has been to Paris, it means she took the flight, she walked along the Seine, she drank the espresso, and then she got back on a plane and returned.
Her chair is not empty. She is sitting right across from me in the boardroom.
Been is a round-trip ticket. It signifies an accumulated experience. You went out into the world, acquired the experience, and brought it back with you to the present moment.
Which creates a logical rule that is so simple, it feels like a magic trick.
Oh, the face-to-face rule.
Yes. If I am standing right in front of you having a face-to-face conversation, I can never, ever say to you, I have gone to Italy.
Because if you had gone to Italy, you wouldn't be standing in front of me.
Right. I would be a physical absence. I would be in Rome.
It's a physical impossibility to say that to someone's face.
I have to say, I have been to Italy
Yeah.
because I took the round trip, and now I am here sharing the experience with you.
This is why native speakers always ask, have you ever been to New York? They're asking to audit your collection of life experiences, your round trips.
They aren't asking if you're currently missing.
To synthesize all of this, the spinning circle, the heavy door, the empty chair, the source provides one final unifying metaphor.
I love this one. It asks us to visualize a movie theater.
This perfectly brings all the mechanics into one cohesive image.
Think of the word go as the movie itself actively playing on the screen. The projector is running, the actors are moving. Green light, action. It is happening.
It is the active spinning state.
Then the movie finishes, the screen cuts to black, the ending credits roll, and you walk out of the auditorium. The heavy doors swing shut behind you.
That is went. Purple light. The event is sealed and finished.
The timestamp is applied.
But then you are standing in the brightly lit lobby, you are holding your empty popcorn bucket, and you are actively debating the plot of the movie with your friends.
You are experiencing the emotional aftermath, the result of what you just watched.
That lingering result in the present lobby is gone, or been, blue light.
The action's behind the closed doors, but the consequence is right here with you.
Green starts the action. Purple seals the action. Blue carries the result.
When a learner can map time spatially like this, when they can see the lobby, the locked doors, and the spinning projector, they cease to be bound by those rigid, fragile rules of a textbook.
They begin to manipulate time dynamically, just the way native speakers do.
And speaking of lingering results that follow us into the present, let's transition to a different kind of reality that is built entirely on the consequences of past actions.
We're moving from the architecture of time to the architecture of survival in the modern world.
We are talking about personal finance.
This is a profound transition, really, because the linguistic framework of finance is heavily gatekept.
Oh, absolutely. The banking industry and financial advisors often use intentionally opaque jargon just to maintain authority.
But the source material we are examining today dismantles that barrier entirely.
It provides the psychological vocabulary needed to navigate money without feeling, restricted or impoverished.
So we are going to decode how native speakers actually talk about money, starting with the foundational trinity of personal finance.
Everything builds on these three definitions.
The first pillar is income. And income is not just your salary from your job.
Right. It is any positive inflow of resources.
Yeah.
A tax refund, a monetary gift from a relative for your birthday, selling an old bicycle online.
If it increases the pool of resources at your disposal, it is income.
The second pillar is the exact opposite. The expense.
Every time a resource leaves your control, it is an expense.
Your rent, your electricity bill, the $3 coffee on the way to work, that streaming subscription you totally forgot to cancel, money going out.
And the third pillar is the mechanism that attempts to govern the first two, the budget.
The source defines a budget so elegantly as a map for your money. It is a predetermined routing system for your resources.
But here is the fascinating behavioral reality. The vast majority of people operate without a map.
They navigate purely by feel.
And this leads to a universal behavioral trap, a cognitive error that transcends culture and language.
The trap of, I'll save whatever's left at the end of the month.
It is a deeply flawed premise built on a total misunderstanding of human consumption.
The narrative goes like this. I get paid on the first of the month. I pay my landlord. I buy groceries. I go out for drinks with my coworkers. I buy a new pair of shoes.
And you tell yourself, on the 30th of the month, whatever dollars happen to be left in my account, I will responsibly transfer to savings.
But on the 30th of the month, the balance is always zero.
Always. The money evaporates.
It really does. It expands to fill the lifestyle available to it.
This is Parkinson's law applied to finance. Expenditures rise to meet income. If you wait until the end of the month, your present self will inevitably cannibalize the resources meant for your future self.
The golden rule, the absolute non-negotiable law of wealth accumulation in this source, is a complete reversal of that timeline. Save first, spend later.
You must treat your savings account with the exact same ruthless priority as your landlord.
Right. You would never tell your landlord, I'll see if I have any money left on the 30th for rent.
No, you pay it on the first. You must pay yourself first.
But this immediately raises the mechanical question. How much? How do you actually map the money?
This source utilizes a highly regarded structural framework known as the 50-30-20 rule. It categorizes every single dollar into one of three buckets.
Let's break down a hypothetical $100 of income.
Okay, let's do the math.
The first bucket is 50%.
Yeah.
$50. This is strictly for needs.
These are the biological and logistical non-negotiables required to just sustain your baseline existence.
Housing, utilities, basic groceries, and the transportation required to get you to the place where you earn the income.
Crucially, this does not include premium organic groceries or a luxury car lease. It is the baseline necessary for survival.
The second bucket is where the psychology of this source really shines. 30%, $30 is allocated entirely to wants.
This is the allowance for human joy.
Exactly. This is dining out, going to concerts, buying a video game, upgrading your phone. This bucket is critical because it prevents the budget from feeling like a prison sentence.
If a financial plan requires monk-like deprivation, it will fail.
100%. The 30% allocation acknowledges that we are emotional creatures who require leisure and status signaling. It quarantines that spending to a safe percentage, rather than letting it infect the entire income.
And finally, the remaining 20%, $20, is diverted immediately into savings or debt reduction.
The future self's bucket. 50 for needs, 30 for wants, 20 for savings. Now, I want to introduce some heavy skepticism here.
Please do.
I am looking at this 50-30-20 rule through the lens of a listener living in London or New York or Tokyo right now.
High cost of living areas.
Very high. We are living in an era of intense inflation. Rents are astronomical. For many people, their baseline needs just a tiny apartment and basic food consumes 75% or 80% of their income immediately.
That's a very real scenario.
If they hear you must save 20%, they will look at their math, realize it is mathematically impossible, and experience learned helplessness. They will abandon the map entirely.
That is a highly valid critique of the raw percentages, and it is a reality for millions of people. But the source material provides a vital behavioral caveat to address exactly this.
Which is?
The specific percentage is secondary. The true variable of success is the consistency of the behavior.
Establishing the habit.
Precisely. If 20% is impossible, do not abandon the system. Adjust the dial, save 10%.
And if 10% means you can't eat,
save 5%. If you can literally only afford to save $10 a month, you save the $10. The mathematical yield of $10 is negligible, sure, but the psychological yield is massive.
You are proving to your brain that you have agency over your resources.
You're establishing the pay yourself first neural pathway.
And to protect that tiny, fragile habit, the source introduces a classic English idiom, out of sight, out of mind.
A masterpiece of behavioral architecture.
If a resource is visible, the brain perceives it as available for consumption. If you leave your savings in the same checking account linked to your debit card, you'll log into your banking app, see a visually large number, experience a false sense of wealth, and you will spend it.
You are relying on willpower, which is a rapidly depleting cognitive resource.
So you must automate the transfer. The day your paycheck arrives, that 5% or 10% is automatically routed to a completely separate, disconnected bank account.
An account you do not have an app for. An account without a debit card.
You make it invisible, out of sight, out of mind.
By introducing logistical friction to accessing the money, you protect it from your own impulsive present self.
Which brings us perfectly into the psychological warfare of daily spending. Why do we bleed money in tiny amounts?
The source heavily emphasizes that small things add up.
The quintessential example is buying a $3 coffee every morning. Over a year, that is over $1,000.
The compound effect of microtransactions.
But let's go deeper into the psychology of this, specifically looking at the grocery store environment. The source has a seemingly simple rule. Never go to the supermarket hungry. But why is this so critical?
Because a modern supermarket is not just a building with food. It is a highly engineered psychological labyrinth designed to exploit your biology.
Wow.
When you enter a supermarket hungry, your stomach produces a hormone called ghrelin, which signals starvation to the brain. This triggers a mild cortisol response stress.
Your body literally believes it is in a famine environment.
Exactly. And under famine conditions, the amygdala, the primitive survival-focused part of the brain, hijacks control from the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and long-term planning.
The prefrontal cortex knows you have a budget.
But the amygdala doesn't care about the budget. It cares about caloric density.
So you walk in intending to buy chicken and broccoli, but your amygdala sees a display of high-sugar cookies, a massive block of cheese, and highly processed snacks.
Your logic shuts down and you begin hoarding resources in your shopping cart.
You reach the checkout and you've spent $80 on garbage.
You are biologically compromised. The defense mechanism is to eat a heavy meal before you enter the store. When your ghrelin levels are low, the prefrontal cortex remains in command, and you can execute your shopping list logically.
This biological hijacking extends beyond just food. It applies to how we use money to regulate our emotions.
Native speakers have developed an incredibly rich vocabulary of idioms to describe these emotional spending traps.
Let's deconstruct a few of them. The first is retail therapy.
It is a brilliant, cynical oxymoron. Therapy is a clinical process designed to heal trauma and improve mental health. But retail therapy refers to the act of purchasing consumer goods to artificially elevate a depressed or anxious mood.
You have a brutal argument with your boss. You feel undervalued, powerless, and stressed. So you go online and you buy a $150 jacket.
For the brief window of time when you click Confirm Purchase, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. You feel a surge of control and pleasure.
The therapy works for about 10 minutes.
But the source highlights the devastating aftermath. The dopamine metabolizes quickly, the jacket arrives, and now you are faced with a cruel asymmetry.
The interpersonal conflict with your boss still exists, but your financial resources are depleted.
You treated a psychological symptom with a financial tool, leaving you, as the phrase goes, sad and broke.
Another massive emotional trap is encapsulated in the idiom keeping up with the Joneses.
This is deeply rooted in evolutionary sociology.
The Joneses represents a hypothetical average suburban family. The idiom describes the compulsion to purchase goods strictly to match the perceived social status of your neighbors or peers.
Your neighbor buys a new SUV, and suddenly your perfectly functional 5-year-old sedan feels like a symbol of failure.
You take on massive debt to buy an SUV you don't even need, just to neutralize the status disparity.
Humans evolved in small tribal structures where social status directly dictated your access to food and mates. A drop in status was an existential threat.
So the brain still perceives a neighbor's new car as a threat to your standing in the tribe.
It commands you to match the display. But in a modern credit-based economy, indulging that primitive instinct leads to ruin.
And this tribal instinct has been weaponized on a global scale by the third phrase the source identifies: the highlight reel.
The defining psychological hazard of the social media era?
A highlight reel originally referred to a short video showing only the best, most spectacular plays from a sports game, editing out all the boring passes and mistakes.
The source applies this directly to platforms like Instagram.
When you scroll, you are seeing your friends' highlight reels. You see the vacation in Bali, the pristine living room, the Michelin star dinner.
You are viewing a highly curated, heavily filtered presentation of their absolute best moments.
But the danger is that you compare their curated highlight reel against your mundane, everyday, unedited reality.
And it creates a profound sense of inadequacy.
What the highlight reel intentionally omits is the reality of how those things were funded. It doesn't show the suffocating credit card debt, the stress of minimum payments, or the anxiety behind the smile.
When you attempt to keep up with the Joneses based on a fabricated highlight reel, you are competing in a rigged game.
So how do we defend ourselves against this? How do we stop the amygdala from hijacking our wallets when we are sad, or when we see an ad on social media?
The source provides a tactical defense mechanism known as the 24-hour rule.
This is an exercise in forced neuroplasticity.
When you experience the intense, sudden urge to make an impulse purchase, maybe it's 11:30 p.m., you are tired, scrolling on your phone, and you see a targeted ad for a gadget.
You do not rely on willpower to say no.
You simply say, yes, I can buy this, but I am required to wait exactly 24 hours.
You are introducing a temporal buffer.
Right. You close the laptop, and what happens is fascinating. Over the next 24 hours, the acute dopamine craving subsides.
You wake up the next morning, the emotional fog clears, and the prefrontal cortex reevaluates the object.
90% of the time, you realize you have absolutely no need for the item. The urge is entirely gone.
To guarantee this works, the source advises a physical modification of your digital environment. Delete all saved credit card information from your web browsers and apps.
This is brilliant because it utilizes friction. Tech companies spend billions of dollars to make purchasing frictionless, one-click checkout, facial recognition payment.
They want the distance between the impulse and the transaction to be zero.
By deleting your card data, you force yourself to get up off the couch, walk to the other room, find your wallet, pull out the plastic card, and manually type 16 digits.
You are deliberately making spending highly inconvenient, which gives your logical brain time to intervene and halt the process. You are engineering your environment to make failure difficult and success easy.
Which brings us to the final, most crucial phase of this deep dive: sustainability.
Because a system based entirely on restriction is a ticking time bomb.
It's the exact same mechanism as extreme dieting.
Exactly. If you declare, I will never eat another gram of sugar, you might survive for 3 weeks on pure willpower. But eventually you will experience an emotional trigger, the willpower will snap, and you will find yourself eating an entire chocolate cake in the dark at 2 a.m.
The pendulum swings from extreme restriction to extreme binging.
The same applies to financial budgets. If you declare, I am never eating at a restaurant again, you will eventually snap and spend $300 on a lavish dinner out of sheer rebellion against your own rules.
This is why the source emphasizes planned fun.
The 30% wants bucket.
It is psychologically mandatory to allocate resources for joy, but it requires a shift in how you interrogate those desires. The source suggests changing your internal monologue from, can I enjoy this, to, how can I enjoy this?
The linguistic difference between those two questions is massive. Can I afford this?
Right.
Is a closed-ended question. It implies limitation, it feels restrictive, and a no generates resentment.
But how can I is an open-ended, creative prompt. It shifts the brain from a state of deprivation into a state of problem-solving.
How can I enjoy a movie night with my friends without spending $60 at the cinema? Well, the objective isn't really the large screen. The objective is the social connection.
So you can invite them to your apartment, make stovetop popcorn for $2, and stream a movie you already have access to.
It satisfies the core desire, social connection and entertainment, without violating the budget map.
How can I read the new hardcover bestseller without spending $30? You leverage public infrastructure.
You go to the local library, which is a pre-funded resource center designed exactly for this purpose. You shift from consumption to utilization.
When you master this sustainable approach, when you plug the leaks of emotional spending and automate your savings, you are finally able to build the ultimate artifact of financial stability, the emergency fund.
Which brings our entire discussion full circle.
It really does. Think back to Mark and the coffee catastrophe.
Mark experienced an acute, unpredictable emergency. He needed $25 instantly to replace a ruined shirt and save his job interview.
Because he had the resource available, the disaster was downgraded to a small adventure.
But the emergencies of real life are rarely solved by $25. Transmissions fail, roofs leak, medical emergencies require copays, entire industries downsize, and suddenly you are without income.
The source defines a true emergency fund as having 3 to 6 months of vital living expenses, your baseline needs saved in a highly liquid, easily accessible, but mentally quarantined account.
The common misconception is that the goal of an emergency fund is to accumulate wealth. It is not an investment vehicle.
It is a psychological shield.
It buys the most elusive commodity in the modern world: peace of mind. Let's talk about the cognitive bandwidth tax.
When you have zero savings, you operate in a constant state of low-level ambient panic.
If your car engine makes a strange noise, Your heart rate spikes because a $500 repair bill means you cannot pay rent. Your brain is constantly running background calculations on survival.
Studies in behavioral economics have shown that operating in a state of financial scarcity literally temporarily lowers a person's functional IQ.
The cognitive load of worrying about money consumes the bandwidth required for creative problem solving and long-term planning.
But when you have a fully funded emergency fund, that ambient panic disappears. The car makes a strange noise, and it is annoying, but it is not an existential threat.
You take it to the mechanic, you transfer the money, and you sleep soundly that night. You've bought the ability to sleep. You have bought a secure perimeter around your life.
It changes your physical posture. Just as Mark walked into his interview with confidence because he knew he had neutralized the crisis, a person with an emergency fund walks through life with a quiet confidence.
They are insulated from the chaos.
The source notes that building this shield is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes years of consistent automation.
It requires setting visual goals, maybe a chart on your fridge where you color in milestones, to make the abstract concept of savings feel tangible.
You must celebrate the small victories. And crucially, you must exhibit self-compassion.
If you stumble, if you fall victim to the highlight reel and impulse buy a watch, you do not declare the entire budget a failure.
You recognize the slip, you forgive yourself, and you return to the map the very next morning.
Consistency in recovery. The exact same skills required to master a language.
We have mapped an incredible amount of territory today.
We started on a chaotic sidewalk, dissecting how to strip English down to its tactical foundations to survive a crisis, learning that the strength of the recovery dictates the outcome.
We rebuilt our conceptualization of time. We abandoned rote memorization for spatial mapping, the spinning circle of our routines, the heavy, locked door of the finished past, and the lingering, empty chair of a past action echoing into our present reality.
We took a round-trip ticket with the word bin and walked out of the movie theater into the blue light of consequence.
And finally, we decoded the architecture of personal finance. We established the 50-30-20 map. We examined how to defend our prefrontal cortex from the hungry amygdala in the grocery store. And we built a fortress against the toxic comparisons of the highlight reel.
Which leaves us with a final overarching premise to consider. This entire deep dive has fundamentally been about linguistic relativity.
The idea that the language and metaphors we use do not merely describe our reality, they actively shape our perception of it.
If you change your vocabulary, you change your behavior.
Yeah.
If you stop saying, I can't afford this, and start asking, how can I achieve this without spending money?
Yeah.
Hey, you literally reroute the neural pathways in your brain from a state of defeat to a state of innovation.
If you finally grasp the spatial difference between a closed door and an empty chair, you are no longer just reciting English grammar. You are operating a new cognitive system for processing time and consequence.
Language is the operating system of human experience. When you upgrade the language, you upgrade the hardware.
You upgrade the operating system.
That is an incredibly empowering thought to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. I hope you take these tools, the punchy crisis phrases, visual timelines, the financial boundaries, and apply them to your own life today.
Keep visualizing the mechanics, keep challenging your impulses, and above all, keep speaking.
Because the only way to master the messy, unpredictable landscape of the real world is to engage with it directly. And remember, even if a stranger ruins your pristine plans on a Tuesday morning, as long as you handle the recovery, you have just given yourself an excellent adventure to talk about. We will catch you next time.